Well, it's always a privilege to come to Rotary, and I feel like I'm really standing in front of the senators of Dryden, because they're all so wise, and a few of you, I think of Shane, you know, he's putting his name in the hat to run for council, and tried to encourage a few other Rotarians to put their name in the hat. I think participation by as many people in the community as possible, as my old, everything's relative, old history teacher Brian Kenny would say, you know, like, make sure that you have a healthy, free democracy, so get people involved. Yeah, so you did well, Brian. So. Okay, so it's just a 10-12 minute presentation. I just wanted to take a look at what's happened over the last 4 years, and just looking at financials, we really worked hard at making sure we had a financial recovery plan that was workable, and we reduced our debt. You can see the numbers there. Over the last 4 years significantly. We've made sure that we maintain the service levels. We're running with a 0 to limited municipal tax increase. I'm happy to talk about somebody's property taxes if they want afterwards. It's a complex issue. The other thing, of course, was working with Domtar to settle that tax dispute. There's still things we have to work out. The next council will have to work out. And in terms of qualitative, we've just a few things that we've worked on. We've expanded the Highway 2502 landfill Saturday hours, established proper annual operating and capital plan submission requirements. We've updated the asset management plan, and et cetera, et cetera. You can read down the list there. Completed LED streetlight project. Made several key hires. When you think about it, I've only been mayor for 3 years, and we've gone through 5 CAOs. 5. So it's been really hard to keep momentum. When you have people in place, the longer they're in place, the more momentum you can get, right? We've got a new community projects coordinator. We have a new treasurer. Some of the qualitative work that we've seen in Dryden, that you know, yay Rotary, right? That building project, the multi-use building at Rotary Park. What a great project to put your name to. So thank you, Rotary, for your diligence and your support for that. The city, we've supported and participated in major building projects and community events such as Pinewood School and so on, and the big bands, little bands, hockey tournaments. I think that's just a really good effort that the community makes to make others from up north feel welcome and involved in our community. I'd love to see it go even further. I'd love to see the schools up there participate with schools down here. We need a leader in that effort. If somebody in the community would step up and try and develop bonds with the kids. You know, it's letter writing. It's what's the old pen pal thing, right? Get that going. We've done some capital investments. The newest one being the electronic signage at the city entrances. Then you think about, of course, everybody knows about our financial pressures. So we've had a reduction in OMPF funding since 2011 of roughly $868,000. So we're having to absorb that. And we've also had provincial downloads. When you think about that excess of $2 million, I think it's roughly $2.4 million in basically provincial programs that end up being downloaded to the city. We end up being involved in it, contributing to it financially, and it's supposed to be like a break even. You know, the province says this is what we're going to do, and you guys help out in coordinating a lot of it. So through KDSB, they look after childcare, land ambulance, social housing, Ontario Works, and so on. There's a Northwest Health Unit, and there's a Home for the Aged. So those three cost the City of Dryden taxpayers $2.4 million a year. And what we're saying is we need to hold the province accountable to make sure that they give us the proper funding so that we're not, in effect, double taxing property owners. That's my concern. The other thing, the internal thing that we, of course, we had to deal with, everybody knows about, is the infrastructure deficit. We have a high debt load, so how do we fix the infrastructure and pay down the debt at the same time? So we've been juggling that. Council outlook for the future, opportunities. We want to focus on key relationships with the province. So it was just timely when Marty asked if I'd fill in. It was just great timing because next week we're going to Ottawa to meet with different provincial ministries and a few ministers. I don't recall a time when we've, in recent history, maybe ever, I don't know, but where we've been able to actually sit down with the Minister of Finance and let him know our specific concerns and ideas for Dryden. And so the Minister, Vic Fideli, is going to give us 15 minutes, and hopefully we can corral him other times throughout the 4 or 5 days that we'll be there. The Minister of Infrastructure, we're going to be meeting with them to talk about OSIF funding. That's Ontario Community Infrastructure Fund. It's really important for us. We've got a good commitment from past government to keep that fund going. You got a change in government. We just want to make sure we lobby and make sure they know how important that program is for us. And we also want to talk with them about the funding formulas. And that, if you've heard me say anything, you say this once, you've heard me say it 1,000 times, it's not fair to Northwestern Ontario that there's so much application-based funding, because Northern Ontario, I think it's just obvious, it's because of our low population. They ignore us. So we can put all the applications in we want, and we can even get in, I think, with the OSIF, we get in the top third of applications, but since 2015 we haven't been accepted. And we have good, like for street programs, and we have to put money aside in case we get that funding so we can match our percent of funding, and then we don't get it. So now that money's stranded. We have to decide what to do with it, either save it for the next application or spend it this year. So it makes it very difficult for our treasurer in particular. I'll just read four points here as to why it's so important to have formula-based funding rather than application-based funding, so that we can count on the dollars from Queen's Park. So there's just 4 points. From a multi-year planning perspective, formula-based funding is a must, due to the fact that there's no certainty with application-based funding programs. Any required external funding would need to be excluded from the multi-year plan, and therefore borrowing needs are inflated. Water sewer rates increases are inflated, and property tax increase requirements are inflated. The second point, application-based funding locks up municipal funds and resources in projects that may not happen. So due to the timing of when the application is approved or not, the city may be challenged to initiate the project, if approved, or spend the municipal funds on other priorities not approved. That's another way of saying what I just said earlier. Writing and applying for grants takes a lot of time and specialized resources that may not be in place for all municipalities. That's our side of the equation. But think of the provincial side. They've got to deal with all these applications. How much time and money and effort is put into that, only to be rejected? As a result, many municipalities utilize contracted services when applying for grants, taking away municipal funds that could go towards infrastructure, or totally miss out on grant opportunities altogether. And the last point is the application-based system puts municipalities in competition against each other with winners and losers rather than an equitable system. So I go to KDMA meetings and I find nobody will really tell anybody else what they're up to with the province, right? So how's that working collaboratively? And it shouldn't be a mindset that says, well, I don't mind screwing Kenora or Red Lake if it gets something for Dryden. It's like, we could accomplish way more if we work together more effectively. So I could go on about that. That's just a bit of a sore spot with me, to do with the structure of how that works. Opportunities, focus on key relationships with the province, as I said. I wanted to mention, we wanted to meet with these other ministries, Ministry of Community Social Safety and Correctional Services. Our fire department, one of our real concerns is that they're going to a different training requirement model, and it will, talking to the fire department, it would cost probably $202,000 in extra training costs that we would have to fund if they go through with this new training model. So we're going to Ottawa. We want to talk to them and say, foisting these changes on us. We're all for training. We want to do as much training as possible for firefighters, but you have to come to the table because you're putting these onerous demands on us. The Minister of Natural Resources, that one there, we were talking about a land swap between where the water base is. So we wanted to look at maybe doing a swap. The